jump. You good, okay? We're not gonna jump straight into the socialization. Go and lock your leash. Go and have your remote ready. I'll have you stop about here, Shelby. Watch him. Okay, so you're starting to breathe a little heavy here. Tap. Tap. Tap, 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 tap.
I feel like 95 still.
Escalate them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll be sitting there and then once I tap him, then he like goes to bark and then does this.
Yes, because he hasn't learned that tap means to cut the crap. Okay, so that's why it was a tap, right? Because he was already thinking about it. So had she come closer, he would have done it anyways. So it's tap to get him to stop, but then he was already getting like the Hulk. So then when he kicks in, you have to keep it on and make him cut the crap. That's fine, because that's what's going to teach him. Tap doesn't mean escalate. Tap means de-escalate. Okay. So Shelby, this is Emily, Mack, and Ollie. Okay, remember my name. Okay. So Shelby's already done this before. Okay, so she's got a framework. So I'm gonna explain how it works. But most people, get pull them out. There you go. Most people, when they try to greet dogs, they greet them face to face. It's the worst approach because it's very confrontational for the dogs. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is just get them used to walking with Ollie to build comfort, just like, oh, there's this dog, no big deal. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna walk on the outside of the park here. So we're gonna go down and walk on the sidewalk, and you walk them on your right. Yep, cool. So what we're gonna end up doing is gonna be Mack, Emily, Shelby, Ollie, and we're gonna walk for a bit, and then we're gonna bring him in. So it'd be you, Mack, Shelby, then Ollie, and then we'll bring Ollie in. So then it's Shelby, Ollie, Mack, Emily, and then we're gonna put some space there because they're gonna be side by side. We're gonna slowly then close that gap, and then we'll see if we can get them to coexist and interact. Okay? Questions? And you're at 95?
Yeah.
All right. Told you the number was high.
Yeah. I mean, he's close.
Yeah.
So.
Ready? She's. We just bumped her. We just promoted her to 90 today. Ready? So I'll have you go first, and she's gonna come up from behind. Okay?
If I give him slack,
No, keep it how you have it. Because you want to have immediate control in case you have a moment. And don't worry about your turnaround right now. I'll tell you what to do in case you have to correct them for like forging or anything. Okay? We're gonna go left. And then you'll sneak up on the left here, okay? Is that your number, like 95 been the number for like...
yeah, it's been good. Other than what you just saw, is I have to walk in.
Was it the other dog that you reacted to right there?
The off-leash dog.
Okay. The black and white one? So he's been good on the 95?
Yeah.
Okay.
I really wish I bought this little system for Diesel because like when Diesel starts to react now, this one follows Diesel even though there's nobody barking at.
Outside?
Yeah. That's how I ended up taking a little ride. I told you he's dragging.
Oh yeah, the tennis court. Alright, so you see how he's looking here?
Yeah.
When he crosses over, you're going to tap, okay? Now he's fine. So as you start to close this gap, we have to watch for the ears, the eyes, the hackles, his tail and stuff. If he has a moment, what are you going to do? Hand. Not bad. You know, Shelby?
What?
If Mack has a moment, she doesn't want to pull him back. Which way does she want to pull?
Oh, out. Away.
Up and away. Okay, there you go, up and away. Keep forward, tap, keep forward. And is it, so, I don't know if you know this about your muzzle, but you see how there's a loop on the, oh, have you seen that loop that is on the bottom?
Yeah.
You can feed a collar through there. So what I'll do, tap, forward, tap. Sure, let's just keep forward. Is, you can use the e-collar to feed through. You got a dog with it as well. Just a moment. Is, you can use the e-collar, you can feed it through, and it'll secure the muzzle at the base. Yeah. So, if there's like a flat collar or something, because you're trying to like all these things, right? 'Cause right now when he was pulling it, I could see it come under, and so he could, if he tried hard enough, pop it out.
When I got him to put it in the house, he managed.
You managed it? Yeah. So have typically when they're wearing the muzzle, they're going to have the e-collar on. So that's another thing that you could do to secure it. And then it'll be cluttered because you have all that stuff, but it's just kind of, it is what it is, okay? So what we're trying to do here with Mack and Ollie is get them used to just being around each other. You know, as humans, the way we greet is face to face, shake hands. Hi, how are you? We're used to shake hands. Now it's like the elbow bump, I think is the new thing. For dogs, if they were to greet each other, they greet each other nose to butt. Okay? But when they're on a leash, it's typically going to be face to face, and it's very confrontational. Okay? Especially when you got, you know, a guy that's reactive, or like always anxious, reactive. There's already a stressor there. So then when you add in the other stressor of this dog's in my face, in most cases it's going to escalate to a fight. Okay? Yep. Bump it. Tap, bump it. Tap. Now, tap. Relax. So when he goes reactive like that, it's hard to keep moving.
Yes.
So your best bet is actually to just stop and angry yourself. Okay, because as you're trying to move through, he like almost knocks you off your feet. Okay, so first thing I do is stop, up, and remote. Get him to cut the crap. Okay, now that dog had a little bit of energy too, it looked like. I'll leave it there. How are you feeling?
He was more reactive. He was looking over there
Still
than
there?
he was the other dogs he got.
Yeah.
So that actually surprised me.
So, what we're doing here is just getting Mack and Ollie used to just being around each other. Okay, we don't need them to like each other. That's the human stuff. You know, human emotions, feeling bad because the dog doesn't have any friends and all that stuff. It doesn't matter. Okay, but if they want to socialize them to a realistic degree, in your case, you have someone coming over bringing a dog, then this is where this comes into play. Okay, so think of dogs, like some dogs are capable of just right off the bat, you bring them and they just play. Very, very easy play. Not all dogs are like that.
That's why with Diesel, that's why with this one, but
Complete opposite, yeah. So it is what it is. So here, with them walking next to each other, we're trying to build a relationship or a friendship of sorts. And the way we do that as humans is we do stuff with each other. Okay? You go out for dinner, you go to a sports game, you do all these things, the kind of things to do as humans that would strengthen either a friendship or a relationship. And the more stuff you do, the stronger that bond is. So dogs don't have that. They don't read books. They don't play video games. They don't watch movies or anything like that. They use bathrooms, sleep, walk, play, hunt if they could, maybe a couple other things. Okay. So 3 of those activities are bonding activities. That'd be walking, resting, and playing. Obviously, he's not going to play right now. Resting, well, he's not tired. So then if we try to bring him to his face, he's going to escalate. So we go into walking. We're just walking together, and he's going, oh, okay, I can be around another dog and not be a jerk. And as we start to close that gap, we're looking for tension. So as we bring in Mack or Ollie closer to each other, you might see he has a reaction. We correct him for it, and we keep walking until he gets comfortable with that particular setting. Cat forward, yep. So don't be discouraged if there's a negative reaction. Okay, is we correct it, we keep walking. And if he calms down, like let's say his hackles go up. Have you seen that? Do you have hackles come out? Yeah. So if his hackles go up and you correct them and they go down and they stay down for the rest of the 10 minutes or 15 minutes that you're walking, then I go, okay, I'm gonna now move to the next step. If his hackles were to stay up that entire 10 to 15 minutes, then I'm thinking, well, if I move to the next step, he's already tense. He's already got stress there, right? So then I go, we're not even gonna do that. We just end it here. We go our separate ways. Then we would see that same dog again. And we repeat the exercise the same from the get-go, how we started. Each dog on the side, go for a walk. Bring Mack closer. Maybe we see his hackles again. I correct the hackles, and maybe he lets it go this time. And he relaxes, and I go, great, this is better than last time. Last time he didn't even relax. Then we go closer. Maybe he tries to lunge, I correct him. And his hackles are up again. I correct them, they go down. I go, great, I'm able to actually stop it, right? So people are very quick to want to rush into the let them play already. And whether or not that happens is, I don't know. Mack knows, Ollie knows, I don't know. Okay. Sometimes it takes people a couple of walks. Sometimes we get it on the first walk. Careful. That's why you're flying all over the place, just tripping over stuff. Sometimes it does happen on the first time where we get the dogs to be able to play. Or sometimes only they sniff each other. Sometimes they're just completely indifferent. Sometimes it's just a no-go. And I'll tell the owners, don't worry about it. Keep repeating. It might be the 10th time, it might be the 100th time. Before they go, oh, okay, like I've seen you so many times, no big deal. And they open up, and then they start to show curiosity, and smelling, and then possibly playful behavior. But then there's still the context of, and once we hit this corner, we'll bring Mack to your left. Okay, Emily? So like let's say he's fine being in the yard with the other dog. Go ahead and get situated here. There you go. Go ahead and shorten the leash a little bit. Like that. Good. Yep. Good. Starting to look a little more. So like let's say you're in the yard with the new dog, right? Everything's going good. Mack is relaxed, and maybe he's laying at your feet. Then the other dog comes over to say hi to you. What do you think's gonna happen? Right? But that's a totally different thing than just being in the yard with him. So there's context now. So the context of walking together is one thing. The context of coexisting and being loose with each other is another thing. Then the context of them, the other dog or visiting dog, moving into your personal space is another thing. Okay? So as the owner or the handler, it's your responsibility to be aware and kind of have a heads up to all this. Because people tend to assume if everything's going great, it'll continue to go great. But there's those things that are variables. Okay, we got the dogs up here. Yep. Because he's thinking, it's okay. So go ahead and come to a pause. Wait. There you go. Now forward. Yep, tap to your left, tap to your left. There you go. Good. So I can see him glancing. I'm looking at his tail here. His tail looks relaxed. His mouth is open. But he's just taking some glimpses over here at Ollie. Okay? So you can't assume that just because they're playing with each other, if that does happen, that they're going to be fine with everything. You know? So if since I already know that, if I were to see that situation about to happen, I'd either kick Mack out of my personal space, so there's nothing in the guard, or I stop that dog from approaching me before it gets to that point. Does that make sense? Same thing with like resources. Like if Mack has his dog bed, you know, he finds the dog walking around until he walks around the dog bed, and then he's like, hey, that's mine. You know, I don't know what it's gonna be for him, but I just know the most common things, and that tends to be it. Once the dogs are comfortable coexisting, then it's resources. The owner, bed, food, water, toys, couch, your bed if he sleeps in the bed, like all that stuff, okay? So with visiting dogs, I highly suggest that the visiting dog doesn't get those privileges like the in-home dogs, okay? Because I would see that being problematic for him, okay? And sometimes it can look fine, like owners like Jesse was great, they were doing everything together, and then there was a fight. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, just again, because just don't assume that just because it was going well, that it's gonna be, you know, yeah, it's just like a happy ever after. You still have to be proactive about stuff. So by putting rules to things, you're just minimizing the exposure to that potential risk, and preventing anything from actually escalating. Are you got any questions? What about you, Sheila?
So when the dog like does come, should I do the same thing before he comes?
Yeah. So this is the thing. Because if you just bring the dog in, now the dog is actually coming into your territory. So what we do here, the way this would translate to you, is you're outside with Mack, like you're outside with Mack. Maybe he has a moment, you correct him, go for a walk. Ideally, at minimum 45 minutes, but I get it if that's not going to be doable. At least 10 to 15 minutes, okay?
I thought you meant like.
And you would progress through this exercise quickly, okay? But if you start to progress because you're going faster than he's ready for, don't be surprised if there's a bad moment and you don't get over it because we didn't take time, okay? So we go for a walk, you replicate the exact same thing to the best of your ability. Slowly inching them closer and closer, and then when you come back to the home, you would have the visiting dog enter first, then follow through with Mack and Diesel or whoever's going to be on the walk, okay? Because what happens is you bring him back first, and then the visiting dog, he's going to turn around, he's going to be territorial, and it could have been a great walk, absolutely great walk, and then all of a sudden, that happens, and now it's screwed. Like you can stop it, but he's going to be tense and suspicious. So when you bring the dog in first, you're removing that territorial response, okay, or the potential. Once they're inside, I would just have like them holding their dog, and then you have Max under, resting by you, and now we're just getting them used to being with you and coexisting within the same space. But now we're too worried about the sniffing and playing stuff. How long is that dog going to be there?
Like 3 weeks. Long time. Long. My last military friend, he's retired, has nothing to do. He just drives to state visiting everybody. This is our so,
what kind of dog is it?
A pit mastiff mix.
Oh, it's big.
Yes. It's his color and his name is also Diesel.
Oh, really? Nice.
Thanks.
Is it trained, do you know?
Well, with people he was fine, but when we took him to the dog beach, he was a little reactive, so since his name, the owner just kept him on the leash, and he was fine.
Tim's dog, Diesel, was reactive.
Yeah. So, it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, well, I would think, as a visiting guest, I just keep my dog in my RV then. That's how I think that would play out.
When it came to RV on residential streets, he parks it and just walk by our house, my church, because they let him.
What? So you're planning on having a Zoom session when all this happens, is what you're saying, right?
Well, we can do the walk, and then once he gets back, then
Okay. Just
In
have
case
an
anything
idea.
does happen, you can be like,
Unless an MBK is available. I've been sending them to do home stuff.
see, I was gonna ask you if we can pay you and stuff.
Well, the issue isn't so much
Or him,
because I did
whoever.
home to home all the time. The issue is now I have 30 clients again, and I see 8 people a day. So then I'm going into 8 different homes, and then some of those people are high risk in terms of their health or whatever. That's the issue. Let's go ahead and at the end, at this corner here, we're gonna bring in. We'll move Mack back to your right, and then you're gonna go on the opposite side. Correct. Go ahead and touch to the right. Yeah. We're gonna start off with the bigger gap first. We're gonna slowly like close in with them together. I like this color. It's my favorite hero growing up.
The people we got him from when he was a baby, they named him Arkham.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I was like, no.
Run! And what's our number now, Emily? Okay. Just go and plug in a little bit. Comment right here. Down in the back after the walk. So as we close this gap here, he's making little side glances, which is normal. Yep, it's okay. Because now we're starting to change the picture for him. Tail's down, his mouth's open. So the panting tells us what about that, and all of it. And what else? Yeah, releasing stress, cooling down. Also, I look at it as a relaxed state. So that breathing, right, is if, let's say we brought in Ollie and that breathing went from, yes, then there's tension. Now that doesn't exactly mean that he's going to escalate, okay? It just tells you that the current moment is exactly. So it's an on-the-fence behavior, as I tell people can go either way. He can tense up and let it go, or he can tense up and escalate. So like, let's say you do this with Mack 10 times, and every one of those times he closes his mouth and then he explodes. It's safe to say that when we see that tension, we need to correct it because we know where it's going to go. Okay? Otherwise, if he closes his mouth and he goes to relaxation, that's good. Because he goes, I don't like what just happened, but it's not a big deal. I'm going to let it go. Okay? So like once we start to do like we'll do sniffing and all that stuff with them, you might see that stuff. The most important thing is always just keep moving. Unless you have to absolutely like the donkey and just up. Okay?
But it's like this big, and it was dark out, and park lights obviously weren't on. See, even though I trust if he gets out, I know he's not going to bite anyone. He might chase them, want attention, and run away. The most dumb thing he did was probably get sprayed at a dump stop. But this one, he probably likes the more. I don't know. How he would react.
A person too?
Huh?
A
No,
person
he's
or-
actually been really good with people. He is, because usually, I told you when he first started with you, like, he was being reactive to people.
There were 2 man dogs.
It doesn't matter.
But yeah, so I just wanted to keep him on the animal transport since I couldn't like sleep well and get something to watch him through.
Okay.
So I was running with him to try and get him to chase Diesel, and he was having no part of it. Well, out of nowhere, he decides to go around my friend, and I'm like, done, watch out. I walk around her, and then he takes off after Diesel. And reflex, my wrist went like this, so I couldn't rip the leash off.
Probably gonna break your wrist. Like that video of that old lady with the Great Dane. Have you seen that? You got him on the flex leash and the Great Dane takes off and the lady literally just goes up in the air. What we're gonna do is once we hit this shape, we're gonna stop to take a rest break and we're gonna see if they'll just kind of coexist with each other. Then we'll do the sniffing part of the exercise. Nothing I haven't seen anything weird. Just give them a little rest break. And then let's go ahead and bring Ollie around here. Good. Then I'm going to have you just kind of step in, okay? Pull, 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 pull. There you go, right there. So now they're just coexisting, okay? So this, now we're resting, right? So now he's like, all right, I've walked with this dog for the last half an hour. No big deal, is what we're saying. Typically, right off the bat, when he's escalated, he's already stimulated. If you try to go into this, he's building off that stimulation. He's probably going to get a response. So one, we're burning off energy, so there's less physical energy to fuel that aggressive behavior. You're also removing that initial stimulation of there's a dog, right? With that, just like walking with the other, right? The, how to say, the moment or the, what's it called? What's the name for it? It's like with couples, you know, like at the very start of the relationship, like there was all like lovey-dovey, and then afterwards, like, you know, like honeymoon phase, like kind of like that, where it's like really amped up because it's like it's a new thing, and then once you do this for 30 minutes, whatever, he's like, all right, no big deal, whatever, okay. So then, like let's say he laid down and Mack laid down as well, then I just leave him alone, okay? Because then he's going, all right, because laying down is vulnerable for them. That he goes into a more submissive state, and then all he does, so I go, great. So them just hanging out there, like resting for an hour, that's actually an activity. Where he's like, oh, okay, like I hung out with you for a bit, that was cool, like no, nothing bad happened or whatever. And he doesn't feel like he's pressured and having to meet the other dog. That's the thing, is people want them to meet each other, and either both dogs or one dog is not ready, and then that's when he escalates. Okay, so I always take my time. The dogs will let you know when they're ready, because you'll start to see natural curiosity come out. So like let's say right here while they're resting, if like Mack would like get up, start sniffing, moving towards Ollie, that tells me he's curious. Okay, then we have Ollie's response. How's Ollie gonna feel about it, right? Like maybe Ollie's just sitting there and he's resting, and Mack comes over here and he's sniffing him and he doesn't move, doesn't anything. Then he's like, all right, cool, whatever. Like, I'm not bothered by you. If when Mack comes to smell and he closes his mouth, then that would tell me that Ollie is getting tense because now Mack is coming into his personal space with his face, but then he goes back to panting. Then that tells me it stressed him out for a moment, but he got over it. Okay, so if they've not been properly socialized or not socialized at all, it's going to be awkward in the beginning. like I'm sure whoever's locking themselves up completely for quarantine and stuff, like trying to socialize after this is probably gonna be kind of weird because it's a muscle. You know, socializing is like it's a social. So you're a bartender?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I bartended for like 8 years.
Yeah.
So I'm real good with shooting shit with people.
Yeah.
Just strike up conversations, like whatever, right? Because that came with the job.
Yeah.
But prior to that, and my business now, like I used to be a very quiet, shy person. But now, like you wouldn't know that, you know. So same thing for the dogs. You know, if they've not been socialized correctly, it's going to be awkward. And dogs aren't like humans. Like we're just awkward. You know, maybe we leave the situation. Dogs can potentially escalate the situation. Okay. Questions about any of this stuff? Okay. So now, because we have. We're going to do another lap around, and once we hit towards the end again, what we're going to do is bring them, we'll do Ollie to Mack first, where you'll lag back, and then we'll walk up to bring Ollie to Mack's rear to see how Mack feels about that, okay? But we're going to do this as we're walking, okay? And then if he takes it no problem, or maybe he's not interested, then we'll reverse roles, and then we're going to have Mack sniff Ollie's rear, and then we'll stop. And then see if we can do a little bit more closer socialization. Okay? Good. Ready?
Do you have them next to each other again?
Do you have Reactive Dogs? Reactive Dogs are like not overly excited.
Well, one kind of look at from the dog is super excited about it.
Okay.
The dog that I told you my brother about was a great idea. That dog's like fun. He's a little hyper, but it's not like, he's not aggressive. Like, I don't say that he's all mad.
Oh.
But also, when they told me the actual story, they had Mack with all this stuff on and brought the dog into our yard. I'm like, what is this about?
Yeah, he's gonna be super for you. I mean, if you're up for it, because you're helping again next week, right?
Yeah. Okay.
The client you're helping, her name's Kendall.
Oh, okay.
So if you're free next Friday, or when is the whole camp or whatever guy coming?
Coming 26th, so after, that's
If-
not this coming one, this is going to be crap.
Yeah, if you wanted to join on that session, you'd be welcome to.
So you're a So try to
I think it's going to be at the same time. It's going to be after her lesson. I know I have other people that want to socialize as well. They're only available certain days. One guy is only available on Monday, and I think I see him at 11:45 or 12. And we socialized his dog this past week, and he did really well. Yeah. So if you want to do that.
That'd be awesome.
And it'll be the same thing. You guys are going to hear. She's going to get it for the third time. You'll get it for the second time because it's Kendall's
It's good
first
for him.
socialization. She's not done that like correctly yet. And her dog has, I think he's brindle. Gilmore's brindle, right?
Yeah.
Same kind of. Yeah, he's a pit mix. He's got pointed ears and stuff. He's a very like handsome dog. That's a good close stuff. And there's the Saturday mornings.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to come tomorrow. Is it here or is it by your building?
It's here. It's north of here on Diversity and Inner Lakeshore. It's called the John Peter Altgeld Monument. If you put it in Diversity Golf Course, it's right across the street from the parking lot there. So it's like something for like an hour and 15 minutes, whatever it is. And then there's just across the street, and we meet at the statue there. So I'll post it actually most likely midday today, because you can see the intersection and you see the name of the statue. So you don't use Apple Maps though. If you use Apple Maps, it's going to send you somewhere else. Waze should Waze should work. I think Waze is Google. So yeah, Apple Maps.
It's like resting in the lake.
Inner Lakeshore. Because Lakeshore Drive is the big, little small highway there. And Inner Lakeshore is, or there's like, Diversity and Sheridan would be like the next big street there. Yeah, he loves it. I had somebody.
Maybe I will. I don't work tonight for one, so I can actually get my ass out.
I had somebody message me like, oh, I was gonna show up, but I'm home from work. I'm like, I didn't need to know. I'm like, that's fine. Are your family doing any of this training?
I just kept it to me because I figured like my dad would do it on my too. He came like close to it over there. He's like, he's been there.
Do they at least let you do what you need to do? Like they don't stop you?
Oh yeah. Like my daddy's reactivity, so he'll have to do it. Like how? Like I turn off the phone. But he's actually, so we let Hugo just once we get home, around the corner, he runs to the house. So we run to his puppy. We just start doing that like when he actually goes. But I'll be over there, he just tries to run fast, like I'll get him. But he's been good. And I also did, I used to have like the off-leash. I would never have him off-leash, but I had like the lead, like with the high knee. Like off-leash, you take like the first little and he was pretty good.
Oh, I see. The long stuff?
Yeah.
I got it. So what we'll do here is we'll go ahead and start lagging with Ollie, and then she's going to bring Ollie to Mack's ear. So you have to give some trust here. You can't be super paranoid that he's going to say something. Okay, so go ahead and just shorten your leash.
Shorten it?
Shorten it, right? Because in case he does whip around, see how he's already turning his head here?
Yeah.
In case he does try to whip around, you're going to have immediate leverage over that head. And then, if we see an aggressive response, we'll of course correct it. But I don't want you to assume that any little thing he does, yes, okay? Because then he's going to get, if you correct him too many times for like other stuff, he's going to not want to. Okay? We're going to slow your pace a bit so she can catch up with Ollie here. Forward. See how he closed his mouth and licked his lips?
Yeah.
Keep forward. There you go. Let it go. Try it again. Dog. Tip, tip, tip. Tip, tip, tip. Tip, tip, tip. Tip, tip. Relax. Forward.
Yeah.
Now, here we got this dog. Tip. Tip. Tip, 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 tip. What's your number?
120.
Okay. Forward.
Yeah.
Tip. 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 Tip, 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 tip. Bump it. Tip. Tip. Right. Almost. Keep going. Tip. So he even gets hackles on his tail here. You see it?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Tip. 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 Yep. So he's very slowly resolving that tension. So his tail's down, it's not escalating anymore, and that little hackle is starting to come down. Okay. Let's try it again.
I'll go up.
Yep. Good. And then back to the side. So, you know why he would react to that dog, but not to Ollie? Why not? Yeah, well, I mean, he's not part of our social bubble. Like, this is a social bubble. Like, if people were to see us, they would assume that we're a group. That makes us social, right? And I want you to imagine everybody has their social bubbles. That group of people has a social bubble. That this dog has one. This guy coming up has one, right? So for him, in the dog world, like we know that these are people here just enjoying the park like we are. Or well, we're not really enjoying the park, but we're working, whatever. But you know, that's what the assumption is, right? Anybody comes to the park is here to enjoy the park. It's perfectly fine. It's just how humans work, right? We can share a community space. Not so much with dogs, for some dogs. Okay, some dogs look at it and go like, that's a potential threat, that's a potential threat, that's a potential threat. Okay, so for him, it's better to be first in that context as opposed to risking him and his safety. Does that make sense? Yeah. So in their world, it's kill or be killed. But for humans, we have laws and things like that that keep us safe. So the assumption is if I go outside the park, I'm going to be safe, right? Now it's pretty close. And then get in position. There you go.
That's what he does. He finds the way to see my legs every time I zap him.
And right when I was going to point it out, but then this guy started growling, and his tail started going up. I don't know if you saw it.
I looked back and they were pointing at my back.
Yeah,
and I saw
right
it.
when I pointed at the back, his tail was starting to go up, and then this guy, the dog, escalated, and they escalated as well. Okay, forward.
Yep.
So, see his tail now? See that? Whereas before, well, the little tuft, but at the same time, it was higher than what it was before. Earlier, it was completely down, not between his legs, but it was just completely down. And here, he's keeping it like a quarter up. Okay, so these are things that you want to watch for, because people say, "Oh, my dog walked past a bunch of dogs, no problem," and then they exploded. And then I'll tell them, "Well, your dog may have been escalating during that whole time frame, and you're not aware of it, and then all of a sudden you see the explosion." Make sense?
What does it do?
Do you have a card on you?
No.
We put up our back. Do you have a phone on you?
Yeah, I do.
If you take a picture of the back of the shirt, it has our Instagram handle.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm glad I got these shirts.
Sorry, I have a puppy and I'm just needing some training.
There you go.
Thank
Canine
you so
Perspective.
much.
Thank you. Watch here. Good. Forward. I meant watch like this. Forward. All right. So what we're going to try here is Mack with all. Okay. Now what I think with Mack potentially is if he goes for the sniff, possibly kind of gets stimulated and wants to mount or even become aggressive, like as in the bullying response. Okay. You ready? Ready, Shelby?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're gonna slow down a little bit. You're gonna keep moving, but you're gonna slowly bring Mack up. Okay. I'm gonna slow a little bit more with Ollie. Yep. Just get grip on that. Yep. Moving forward. That leash. There we go. Keep him there. Slow down a little more, Shelby. There we go. Yep. Bring him forward, bring him forward. Pull, pull, pull. There we go. Alright, going to pull him away. And then side to side, and we'll walk back to that spot. Alright. So a tiny little sniff from Mack. Right? That's good. Tiny bit of curiosity. Can I hug to the left?
didn't even know what to do in that moment. He just
Oh, really? This is good right here. It's something mindful. Sometimes people bring their dogs together. All right. Good. So, he was actually holding. Uh-oh. The parents there? She's tough, though. So, he started to escalate a bit, and he was fine until that dog becomes reactive. Okay? So that's something to keep in mind when we deal with dogs with reactivity. Essentially, that dog's putting out threats. So he's like, have you guys seen that meme? What's your name?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tony.
Yeah.
That, right? It's like, that's what I think of now. Every time I see dogs do that, is, he's putting out threats. So then Mack goes like, all right, like I was tolerating, but now that's too much, right? Now you can get him over that. But what you would need is, we would need a person with that kind of dog sitting still, letting their dog do whatever, and you repeat that exercise of going back and forth, so he learns that he cannot be respond to that. But you have to keep him within the context. But here, obviously, because that's actually a woman, she's walking her dog. The one that barked right now, I thought it was a man. It's a lady.
Oh.
Yeah. So. Is in order for him to retain, I don't blow up at other reactive dogs, he has to leave the situation calm. But in this case, we're walking, come across, and we don't come, then that dog barks, and then she leaves with her dog, and then you're stuck with your dog, right? That's the reality of life. So what I like to do, if possible, is if there's homes with yards and they have dogs behind fences, that's a great way to practice, because it's still reactivity, except they're behind the fence. So you're not worried about interaction, okay? And then I just go back and forth along that fence line until he cuts the crap and he realizes that, okay, I can't. Okay, just be mindful that, they might come out and say, what the hell are you doing? Leave my dog alone, okay? Otherwise, if you're like, hey, I'm training Mack, if you know them or whatever. Now, let's say you do that and Mack doesn't stop. Then I have to change the approach, and then the approach is let Mack be reactive. You're allowing him to go to the fence, but you're not allowing him to get to the fence. Does that make sense? Yeah. So he might be a foot back, he's there, right? But he can't get to it. And I'm remoting him, and you might even have the continuous whatever to get him to stop that behavior and to return, and then repeat that a few times. Because now he's thinking, all right, mom let me do what I wanted to do, but then I got corrected for it. Okay, right now he's being corrected for leaving the healing position, right? And it doesn't seem like it's sticking that he's going, I don't become reactive. Then I let him become reactive, and I don't worry about moving, and I correct him for that until he goes, oh, reactivity is not an option. I want this. Okay? Question so far. Alrighty. So we want to close this gap here. Yep. So one at a time. So we'll have you bring your right here, and we're gonna bring Ollie from around.
Okay. Heel.
Watch Mack. So whenever you're doing anything with Mack, your responsibility is to keep him under control, right? There we go. Good. So he's kind of his eyes just kind of looking around. Can you come in a little bit closer with Ollie here? Yeah. Now watch right here. Careful. Okay. So see how he ducked his head there? So Ollie one coming from behind and just coming into that zone there, what's going on here? Okay, no big deal. I can handle that. Okay. Question so far? Do you want to try like we did last week with Gucci?
Yeah, but can you do it?
The question is, do you want to do it?
No.
Here, hold your remote. So I'm going to show you something. Keep the remote.
Oh yeah, I think.
So first thing we want to do is choke up. This is going to give me the immediate control. What we want to create, and I'll tell you when to tap, okay? That's okay. See how he sat down?
Yeah.
That's antisocial behavior. So that's like someone going to shake your hand and you not reciprocating and like keeping your hand down. That's the equivalent of when a dog does that. You see how he turns around? Little tiny snips on that. So you see how he keeps turning away from Ollie here?
Yeah.
Because he's not too comfortable with him. So he's doing avoidance.
So is that what it is, or is it because like I feel like anytime I tell him break 2 on walks now, like he will not go. He like stays on.
He's still stuck, yeah. That and plus you removed him early for all that dog stuff. You know, so he's kind of like, what can I do? But that's why repetition is key in terms of yeah, doing this over and over and over and over again until maybe you see Mack greet the dog like he would greet Diesel, right? So I'm sure when Mack sees Diesel, he like behaves a certain way, right? Exactly, right? There's a change in energy. So, like, let's say you do this with Ollie and you do it like 10 more times, and all of a sudden we see Mack on the 10th time do this when he sees Ollie. Now he's starting to go like, yeah, exactly. Oh, this is, I've seen you before, right? And even though it's nice and loose, we would still want to do the steps. I don't just still jump into it because let's say he is fine with her and he greets her and it's good, but then she decides to do the zoomies. That's, again, a change in context. And he's like, whoa, I was fine with you, but I didn't know you zoomed around like that. You know, like there's a lot of little things that you have to go through first before, you know, you can say that they actually are like quote unquote friends. Mm-hmm. And what I'm trying to avoid here is any face-to-face kind of contact, because face-to-face is very confrontational. So when I do this and I move backwards, it allows me to keep them side by side but still be able to watch the entirety of their body language. And I'm trying to keep this as slack as possible, but again, if I need to kick in with that immediate control, I have the prongs like that. So Ollie's the most relaxed out of the two of them. See that side eye? Yep. See how he's just watching? So that's distrust. Okay. So, obviously more vulnerable from behind, right? Going, you're cool, but I don't know how I feel about you being behind me, right? So if he absolutely didn't care and just kept looking forward, like that'd be great. But these are things that you want to learn to watch for, because if you don't see those things and you keep progressing, then
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And which we would correct it and then we continue. Most people, when the dogs have a moment, will separate the dogs and they take them apart. And then the next time they see each other, the last thing they remember is we got in a fight, and they just jump off right into that fight. But if it's, we got in a fight, we were corrected for it, and I had to sit next to him for another half an hour, then the last thing they remember is the coexistence. Okay? Questions? Which might be hard to do with the Mastiff. Good. Heel. Question. So Ollie did good.
Yeah.
I think he's potentially more sociable
Yeah.
with dogs, like your friend's dogs.
Yeah.
You know, then his behavior lets you think in terms of reactivity stuff. Questions for me? Good job today. We'll see you next Friday, and then we'll have that session with Kendall. I'll let you know if both of you know if anything changes. Otherwise, thank you for helping out today.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you.
For sure.
Appreciate it. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Questions for me?
Just if we could pay you to come
Cool. Send me what the date is.
I'll call him today because, like I said, he's just traveling everywhere and he's something to watch.
Sure. And then next Friday, it's the same time, same place. It's gonna be the same spiel, but there'll be Shelby with Ollie, and then Kendall with Gilmore, and of course you and Mack. And then if you can try to practice this in the meantime, at least one other time, like a friend's dog or something, because it's you having to do this when I'm not around. That's the thing, okay? Because even if I show up or Enrique shows up with that first visit for that, what's that dog's name? Diesel. And things start great, doesn't mean it's gonna stay great. Like there's, again, that's why I said print all those things. Like if a dog comes into your personal space when Mack is at your feet, if Diesel gets comfortable and starts zooming around the yard, all those things are shifts that dogs build to in terms of comfort. Okay. Anything else?
But it's just, you're saying the whole Diesel. He was here last summer. Like Diesel and Diesel were okay. They play fight, but I don't know.
Don't worry about the play. Yeah, this is just coexistence.
But with them two, should I just not let them two even go at it? Because I know how this one is, or
it's up to you. If you're gonna keep him under control, then it's a good opportunity to practice that.
Okay, I guess the better question is, can I have the e-collar on him while it's happening?
Yeah, you can have the e-collar on as long as you want. Just remember, every 2 hours to rotate it so he doesn't get pressure sores. Okay? Because if you leave it on for too long, there's gonna make marks. It's not because of the stem, it's because there's two things poking in the neck. Just rotate it every 2 hours, it should be fine. You can have it on him all day. If pressure sores do develop, they scab up, heal, fur grows back, no big deal. You can have that on as much as you need it. Okay? Anything else? All right. So get an idea of dates and I can see what I can figure out. Otherwise, he'd be able to help as well because I have all my clients here. And then where are you guys at?
Wait.
Yeah. So that's the other thing too. Just trying to find So we'll see if we can figure something. All right. Anything else?
Oh, that's all.
Think it's going to go bad?
Hope not.
No, I mean for all this. Did you think this is going to be worse?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. His hard time was just the dogs.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, that's what I feel like when there's just past, okay, that dog seems pretty, whatever. First, when I took him out of the car, he didn't even have his thing on, and he just sat there. And there was a dog behind him. He just looked at him and looked away.
Sure.
I was surprised. So I was like, of course, he's not gonna be a little brat today. Adjusted to the red line. But then that off-leash dog came, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, well, that's
There's
different
my
though.
dog.
Yeah. It's not out the ordinary. That's why I always say stepping aside and being stationary is always the best approach because you have more control over everything and you don't trip and go flying. So, okay. Awesome. So we'll be in contact. Set up the Zoom when you're ready, and then we'll see what happens. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.